Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. And today we're going to be taking a look at not one, but two Asus Strix GTX1080 Ti. So obviously an SLi, Ti and SLi, that's what we should be calling it. Anyway, I have already reviewed the single card, which I will put a link for you underneath so you can go and see all of the technical specs about the bigger, cooler, the fact that it's not dual slot, it's so it's not 2 slots, 2.5 slot. I stripped the card down, take it all right back. So there's a lot that you can go and see in the original review. So if you're interested in two, then go and see that rather than me covering it twice. I'm going to show you them in the rig itself. Yeah, that's fair enough. But today is really more about bonkers performance numbers. But right at the beginning, I do want to say, there have been a few weird caveats with the performance and a few things that have made us scratch our heads. So if you're interested, might be one for you. Okay, so I just thought I'd give you a quick look at the rig itself, and this is the system that all the graphics cards that you'll see in the graphs have been tested on. And we've got a Strix X99 motherboard with a 6850K at stock. We've got 32GB of Corsair Vengeance LED memory going on in there. Power supply is an RM1000i. Again, 1000 watts is a lot, as you'll see when we show the wattage later on, but it's the same power supply that we use throughout. And that's just so that we can drop two cards in like this and it not matter. We've got a Corsair H100i V2 in the roof. They've actually got some of the ML120s on it, but the rest of the ones in the case are ML140s. And then we've got the game drive is actually two solid state drives. They're Force LS drives in RAID. And then we've got the Force LX as the system drive. Now, one of the things I do want to say is with the test case itself, we've got AI Suite installed, and the fans are just on the standard fan profile that you can click with the little pop-up in the bottom of the screen that you can get just the standard profile when we tested it. Obviously, because of the close proximity of the cards, if you were to turn the fans up, you would get slightly better temperatures. Now, the way that the motherboards have been designed is you would normally get an entire big fat slot in between the graphics cards, but where the Strix 1080 Ti's are 2.5 slot, they're that tiny little bit closer. So you do still get a little bit of breathing room there, but it's not a full slot of difference. Now with SLi, you're always going to get higher temperatures on the top card because it's going to be pulling heat away from the hot backplate from the card below, and you've also got the exhaust coming out the side which can get sucked in as well. One of the really good ways, if you wanted to ruin the way that your PC looks or anything like that, is you can have a fan being exhausting this way, because then the hot air that comes out the side, it helps kind of drag it away. The only other way that you can really reduce temperatures, short of having ridiculous amounts of air being blown in this way, is to have a fan blowing on the top of the top card, and I would force it into the back plate. You just need a little gap. The best way that I can show you how to do it, and this is normal SLi kind of stuff, is once it's in there you need it kind of raised a little bit, but it would need to be blowing at the card. So if the card was blowing downwards like this, you need a little raise in it just to get the air away, and that is another good way of getting a little bit of extra cooling to the graphics cards. But obviously it's going to ruin the look like this. Now they don't, the bottom card will be remarkably cooler because of the fact that it's got all of this breathing room and direct airflow coming in, and everything for the top card, it just has to work that little bit harder. But this is just normal SLI-ness. It's just a part of the fun and games. So you may wonder why I've gone into all this detail to show you exactly how we tested it, and that's just because it saves people asking me, did you have the case closed? Did you do this? Did you do the rest? I've used it and I've tested it how I would expect you guys to. So the only other thing to kind of talk about is, yes, we did use a HB SLi bridge from NVIDIA. It's the 3-slot one, it's the normal one, it's the kind of generic one that fits most of the motherboards. You can get some motherboards out there nowadays that have got an extra slot in between, so they're kind of a 4-slot one, so the bottom one would be even further down on the motherboards. Now for SLi, they're actually epic because they do give you more room. It's only better if you're running air though. If you're going to go water cooling, it doesn't matter. You could obviously put them on an M80X motherboard and it would make zero difference because all of the cooling's being dragged off with the water to go elsewhere. So, as always, when we get to this part of the review, I say go and have a look on the OC3D website. There's many more graphs that you can go and have a look at, many more tests, loads more going on. That is the place to go if you're seriously thinking about grabbing two of these, or maybe even two of another brand, because it doesn't really matter. Go and have a look at the graphs to see really whether it's worth you spending, let's face it, going to be around £1,500 to £1,700, depending on what card you choose, and obviously then double it up. These two are going to be costing you around £1,600 at the present moment in the UK, which is an obscene amount of money. And that's also why I do have a few more graphs to show you on this time around, because I don't know, some of the results were a little weird, and we'll try and discuss those. Anyway, temperature testing when it comes to SLi, as I've shown you on the rig itself, the top card is always going to be the hottest card, and the top card on this did hit 82. Didn't go up to 85. We weren't going up to 100% fans or anything like that. So it is testament to how good the cooler was. But we were looking at somewhere around 15 degrees lower temperatures for the bottom card. So, but then again, that's kind of normal. It's just part of SLi. It's just part of, you know, the run-of-the-mill sort of stuff. The only time that you're really not going to get any issues is obviously when you're running water cooling. And I do know that you're going to be getting water blocks available for the Strixes, and again, any of the other cars that you can get hold of, because I know most of the big brands are going to have blocks to cover them. The fans did spin up a little bit to the point where in the way I test is in a totally silent environment, so I don't have any of the noise on the rig itself. We have no speakers attached. I turn the monitor audio off, and that's just so that I can actually get to listen to what's going on inside the rig itself. And this fans did spin up a little bit, but they weren't particularly noisy, and if you did have audio on in the room, you probably wouldn't notice at all. Bit more heat in the room, yes, because you've got twice the amount of cards. So the top card, like I said, was getting to 82. The bottom one, to be honest with you, it was kind of hovering around the 70-ish mark, high 60s. So it does show you the difference between how much heat gets dragged off the top of the card. A lot of people say my power supply choices are always overkill. What you need to remember is I don't put a system together to show you, test a couple of graphics cards, and then call it a review. We test pretty much everything on the same rig. And that's one of the reasons why we've always got a big power supply, because then when it comes to times like today, there's enough juice there without me having to swap it all out. So the RM1000, yes, it was overkill for this. I mean, the entire system from the wall was pulling 656 watts. I mean, that's only really 125 watts more than two 1080s were pulling. So really, if you wanted to kind of pick a power supply with a bit of headroom, so you didn't get the fan spinning up too much, then you could go for something like a 750 watt or an 850 watt, assuming that the amps on the rails are going to be good enough. And the other thing to consider is the fan doesn't spin up too much and make more noise than the graphics cards themselves. Now, the reason why I use the RM stuff is the fans, even when it is running, it doesn't really make any noise whatsoever. A lot of the good quality high-end power supply brands, they don't really make any noise now, but it is something to consider if you know, oh, I've got 850 watts power supply and it's some horrible generic black thing that's semi-modular and you can't even pronounce the brand. That might be an 850 watt peak power supply that's really like 500 watts and, you know, putting disgusting amounts of ripple through your rig. So one thing I will say, and I have said it many times, is your power supply is the heart of your system, or the heart, I'd say, or maybe the lungs, I don't know how. Anyway, it's really important, and if your power supply is of low quality, it can be feeding really bad current and ripple into your kit and basically silently killing it. So that's one of the reasons why we also always say try and spend a little bit more money on your power supply. Doesn't matter what brand you go for. I'm not going to be telling you to buy a specific one. Always try and buy one of the better, more well-known brands. I normally say if you're using this kind of level of kit, do you know what I mean? Anything with, you know, expensive kitting, you don't want to be skimping out on your power supply, because if it does go pop, it can kill everything that's attached to it. So it's not worth the risk for saving yourself 50 quid on a 1,500 or a £2,000 or even more system. So anyway, graphics card review. Stay on topic, Tom. Yes. So yeah, 656 watts. A lot less than you'd think for a couple of these in the grand scheme of things. Now on to performance. Performance, we'll start off with the big stuff that kind of gives us the numbers we're expecting, but some of them didn't, which is what I was hinting at the beginning. Some of them were a bit of head scratchers, and that will lead us into our conclusion. So 3D Mark Firestrike Ultimate 4K one, the absolute bonkers mental, stress the bejesus out of your rig, absolutely top of the graph by quite a chunk, really, when you think. I mean, the one that we were getting before, the best 1080 result that we got was 10,000 points, basically. And this come in with almost 13,000 points. So it's like a 30% increase over two 1080s. Now, if you work the maths out, it is kind of, yeah, that would be about right. But it's still a hell of a jump. It's a hell of a jump. And like when you see it at the top of the graph, it's like way out there on its own. So 3D Mark Firestrike Ultimate, that gave us something, you know, that was an expected result, but also still shocked us a little bit. We knew it was going to be good, just not that good. One of the games that we've added in recently, it was one of the ones that we actually did a performance review on the OC3D website, and that's Ghost Recon Wildlands. I know a lot of you have been asking me to change the games up, and we are looking at that. We kind of look for stuff with a benchmark because we're lazy. And this has one, so it means I can be lazy and give you what you want. Good-o. So the stuff that's in this graph is the stuff that we've tested on this game so far. We did a bulk of graphics cards right at the start, and then really the only things that I've done on it since have been the 1080 Ti's. But again, what we can see here is there are some pretty hefty scores here, because we've run the bench in ultimate mode, and then we just do 1080, 1440 and 4K. Now, one of the things that you can see here is the average score, or the average FPS at 4K in ultimate was still only 56.8 frames per second. I mean, you only get up near 100 at 1080. So it goes to show you how kind of stressful this game is. But then when you look down through the graph, you can see how, you know, hard some of the other cards are having to run. This is one of the ones. This is Unigine 4K. Now, this is one of the initial indicators of stuff that's coming in a minute. What you can see right at the top of the graph is, look at the smaller bar at the top of the graph, and it's 91.4. That is your 4K result with 8 times AA. So that was all good. But when you look at the 0 times AA, which is the bigger one, the SLi actually matched, sorry, the 1080 Ti SLi actually matched the 1080 SLi with 0 AA. And this was something that we kind of looked at, and we were like, well, you know, maybe it was kind of like a cap in the game or something. Do you know what I mean? It didn't know what to do with it. But then when we kind of moved on, we got some very similar results in games as well. So Rise of the Tomb Raider, you can see that it's not even at the top. Now, we've arranged these results for a reason in this way, because we sorted it by 1080 results. Because it was the 1080 results that were consistently making us scratch our heads a little bit, because the 1080 results weren't that great. And as you can see with this result, the 1080 and the 1440 result scored exactly the same. But when you look at the 4K result, it was monstrous, and it was almost double what the 1080 normal 1080 SLi was doing. So 4K results were absolutely bonkers mental. The 1080 ones and the 1440, we were a bit like, oh, too many 1080s, I know. And that was kind of similar across a lot of the games, in that the 1080 results could have actually been worse than some of the other cards. Consistently though, 4K was just out there in the distance, and to the point that we think that the drivers that are kind of floating around at the moment, we were on the most recent ones as of a few days ago. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's like the 4th of April or whatever it is today. So it's the most recent one as of about that sort of time. I think the last time it was about a week ago or something, they updated it. But anyway, So we were on the up-to-date driver, we didn't miss that or anything. And also what we do at the start of each testing session is we do a DDU, a display driver uninstaller, wipe it clean, put a new driver on when the cards go in. So we tick all the boxes. So we're happy. Some of the 1080 and 1440 results weren't kind of a bit skew-if, and it happened too many times for it to have been a coincidence. So one of the things we can say is at this present moment in time, we think NVIDIA have focused so heavily on anything SLI touching any of the 1080s that 4K was where they focused everything, which would make sense. If you've got £1,600 worth of graphics cards, you'd assume that you would be running 4K. And that's all kind of well and good, apart from a lot of us look at 4K and we think that the demands for 4K above 1440 are monstrous. And it does get to a point where, do you want to have higher frames per second and more eye candy on 1440, or do you want to go up to 4K and drop that FPS down and maybe not get into that sweet spot if you're running a G-Sync screen or something? And it's a confusing one, and it causes a lot of arguments. I'm personally an advocate of 1440p, and I say that because the demands to go from 1440 up to 4K in a performance hardware sense is huge, and I don't really personally see the benefits from it unless you're running, like a big old screen. And to be honest with you, if you've got a big old screen and you're looking at a screen the size of the telly that's in your front room, you're not going to be sat at your desk wanting to play it. You're going to need to sit back so far, and I don't know. I personal preference, I'd rather have a tasty 1440p monitor with the frames higher and do it that way rather than having 4K. So I think it's a bit of a weird one. I do think if we were to retest this in a month's time or even 6 weeks' time, I think the 1080 and the 1440 stuff would be wildly different. I think 1440 specifically, 1080 I don't think is going to be that big a deal, because I know there's going to be some people out there saying, I've got a 1080 screen and 165 Hertz and I want everything to play at 165 Hertz. Well, I mean, I don't even want to get into a debate about that. I would genuinely say if you try 1440, it's lovely. But anyway, so NVIDIA with the drivers at the moment seem hell-bent on 4K, and that's what our result said. It did chuck up some weird results with the 1080 and 1440, as we've spoken about. The other thing to talk about as well is DirectX 12 still seems to be going, no, not doing SLi, don't care. And it's just turning its back on SLi completely, because most of the DirectX 12 stuff that we did just performed like it was a single card. So there is a bit of kind of a bit of give and take with what's going on, and it's not the 1080 Ti's, it's not Asus, it might be NVIDIA, I don't know, but it's more than likely the fact that DirectX 12 still isn't really using two cards properly yet. And I've said the same thing with the other dual card reviews that I've done recently as well. So you can go back and check those if you want, or you can look in the results and stuff, because they all kind of sing from the same hymn sheet. So if you're using a new game like Wildlands or something like that, then you're obviously going to get a performance boost. But something like Hitman in DirectX 12 or Rise of the Tomb Raider in DirectX 12, it's only really going to be using one of the cards. So the best thing that I can say for you to do is you're going to kind of need to know what your games that you're going to be wanting to play on it, which with such a big investment does put you in a bit of a predicament, in the fact that you don't know what games are going to be coming out and how they're going to react to it. And you're obviously going to want to get more than a couple of months use out of these before there's an amazing game coming out and then suddenly you're only using one card. So it's all a bit if this, but that, something else, do you know what I mean? And it can be hit and miss. But when you look at the benchmark numbers and stuff, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's two 1080 Ti's and there was some whacking great numbers going on there. And if the game did support it properly, it kind of ran off in the distance, but it's very much like loving the 4K res or the really high when you turn all the bells and whistles on and all the eye candy on it, it loves all of that, to the point that until you kind of do turn the res up or turn all the eye candy on, it's almost a bit lazy and kind of like, don't know, you know what I mean? I'll just keep up with some of the others. They'll be happy with that. But then as soon as you kick it square in the nuts and give it something to do, it's a bit like a horse that you've slapped on the arse and it's run off into the distance and it's just, bye. So I'm going to give it the OC 3D Performance Award. I do think at this very, very present moment in time right now, the drivers are a bit iffy, but if there's something that we've learned with stuff like this is it's likely to get addressed relatively quickly. I'm not sure whether Nvidia are aware of it, but considering it was across quite a few games that we did, as I've said, you can check on the OC3D website to see them. Other than the DirectX 12 stuff, I think it will be fixed relatively quickly. I reckon there's something just in the driver at the moment. I mean, one of them was the Hitman DirectX 11 results. All 3 resolutions scored exactly the same. I restarted the rig so many times, even took the driver off and put it back on again. It had us completely scratching our heads. So, long story short is sometimes money doesn't fix everything. Sometimes with some games, 1 card will perform just as well as 2. But on the rare occasion that you do get a game that uses SLi properly, oh my days, you are going to be in FPS heaven. Or if you're just benchmarking and it's all about the EP and shouting numbers at your mates, SLi is still going to be your friend. But if you're heavily into gaming and stuff like that, I'd probably say, weirdly enough, that maybe a decent 1440p monitor and one of these little puppies will probably see you better off in more games more consistently and also be slightly more future-proof than the possibility of grabbing 2 and thinking to yourself, do you know what I mean? Maybe I'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I love the thought of 2. Absolutely love the thought of 2 because I love hardware and the looks of 2 in a rig is amazing. And I'd never tell someone not to get 2 because obviously that's not my place, but I'd certainly advise them on maybe there are a few things that you need to research before just rinsing your credit card or abusing your mum and dad's piggy bank before you do it. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I would love to know your thoughts underneath. There are a lot more reviews going to be coming up in the next week or so, so stay tuned on the channel. I think YouTube's got this weird kind of notify button thing on the channel now. So if I've been getting a lot of people saying that they've not been getting notifications about my videos popping up. If you go onto the channel itself, there is a thing where you can tell it to tell you. So your mobile will tell you and you'll get emails and all that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in my stuff and they've not been telling you, there is now a way you can get them to tell you. So yes. The other thing is OC3D forums, go and take a look. And then I'm on Instagram and on Twitter. Just search for Tiny Tom Logan. I am there. If you do follow from this video and go onto Instagram or Twitter, tell me where you come from so that I can say hello back. Hang on. Like that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This has been Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.